Hey guys, last year I made over $320,000 across my US and UK TikTok shop. As you can see, here's the revenue for the UK TikTok shop. We launched it in the middle of the year, and here's the revenue for the US TikTok shop. We also hit a $100,000 month in the middle of 2025. Here's me standing next to a bunch of inventory of my product in China in summer 2025, holding a phone with an $8,500 day in the US alone. And the purpose of this video is not to brag or, take pride in all of this or sell you a course or whatever. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I'm going to show you how I went from this, making $100,000 in a month, to then going to pretty much complete zero in my shop, hitting very, very low numbers, and explain how that happened, how I went from all of these crazy wins, and break down the lessons that I learned and the mistakes that I made that led to the shop's downfall. So hopefully you can avoid making those mistakes. And for additional proof that I kind of lived that life and experienced, I'm experienced enough to kind of talk about these things. Last year, I went to all sorts of different countries and traveled to all sorts of different countries. And we're going to get back to that in the future. By the way, that's one of the mistakes I made. I went to Koh Samui and lived in like a $5,500 villa for a month. I went to Manhattan. This is the villa from Koh Samui. I drove supercars in Dubai. I did it all. I've been to like 10 or 12 countries and I lived the crazy lifestyle. And then again, the shop went to shit. This is a revenue for January below $500 on the US TikTok shop. And as you can see, the graph looks absolutely disgusting. There's like a $70,000 month in the US, and then it just completely died. So let's dive right in and let me explain how this happened. So the first mistake that I made was not reposting content. And let me explain how this works and what I mean by this. So people have this misconception that on TikTok shop, you can only post content on the platform, on TikTok. But that is completely false. And in fact, what I should have done is post those same videos on Instagram and on YouTube Shorts. And then you guys are probably going to ask me, how are you going to fulfill the orders? It's on TikTok shop. You cannot ship orders for Instagram and YouTube Shorts from TikTok shop. And the answer to that is Shopify. Now, why is it so important to repost content and distribute it across other social media platforms? Because the main constraint of TikTok shop and the main reason why the dashboard flatlined here and why I stopped making money is because of cash flow problems. A lot of this just came down to, like, as you can see, this just looks disgusting, but there were spikes and then it just went down. Spike, went down, spike, went down. And this is mostly because I was running out of stock in these moments. If I didn't run out of stock even once in year 2025 with this product, I would have probably made at least $600,000 or $500,000 in total instead of $320,000. And the reason why I was running out of stock is because I was just running out of money. And it's not just because I was traveling and spending in like a retard, but also because cash flow. You get payouts after you sell on TikTok shop only a couple weeks later, especially if you get some violations, which is pretty frequent. And in order to avoid cash flow problems, so you can continuously order more stock and continue selling even if you're out of stock, you need to start selling on Shopify. And how are you going to fulfill these orders? You're going to ask me, how are you going to fulfill orders on Shopify if you don't have, stock? Well, you can drop ship from China. And that is what I started doing now in order to continue, selling even when I'm out of stock. You just get a little bit of stock shipped to a Chinese 3PL. And then and that just takes no time at all. Obviously, it's way faster than shipping it to the US. And then whenever you're out of stock, you can continue selling through these two channels, Instagram and YouTube, on Shopify. So that's the first lesson. Lesson number 2. Okay, so I come from organic dropshipping. An organic dropshipping background, someone, who used to make money with organic dropshipping. And basically the way it works is, a lot of you guys know, you don't really need to track your profit, or at least that's a very common misconception that I fell for as well, that on Shopify with organic dropshipping, you don't really need to track profit because you're profitable anyway. It's like 50 or 60% profit margin. Like, who cares, right? Just don't even track it. But TikTok shop is not like organic dropshipping. And the difference is, especially if you're someone who wants to sell on TikTok Shop as a non-US person like myself, is that when you sell on TikTok Shop and you have inventory in the US, you're going to have to pay a different sort of taxes. You probably got used to this, having a US LLC as a non-US person, maybe even as a US person, and you don't have to pay any taxes on that income from the LLC, or it's treated as a disregarded entity. But the issue with TikTok Shop is if you ship inventory to the US as a non-US resident or citizen, your taxes are going to be ECI, effectively connected income, which means you're going to have to pay a very different rate, and you're going to have to pay taxes on that money. And unfortunately, it is very, very real, and it's not something I was aware of until like late 2025. And I didn't do any bookkeeping. I didn't do any profit tracking. I didn't do shit. I didn't even have an accountant or a bookkeeper. And so what I highly advise you to do if you start selling on TikTok Shop is get QuickBooks Online. And this is just such straightforward and simple advice. Like, it sounds generic, but it's just ridiculously important and very overlooked, especially by people like me who come from organic dropshipping and have this like mindset of get rich first and get legal later, right? So you can get QuickBooks Online or this other accounting software called Xero, and then you can hire a bookkeeper on Online Jobs PH or like Upwork or whatever for like $400 a month. It's very cheap, and it's going to save you so much time, because this year, in the beginning of 2026, when I realized that I had no bookkeeping done the whole year 2025, all of this money generated, all of these expenses, all of that traveling, and no categorization, no bookkeeping, no nothing. Now I had to spend like a whole month looking for accountants, looking for bookkeepers, retroactively doing all of the bookkeeping for 2025 is just not worth it. Just spend some time doing that now before you get big. So that's my second mistake, and that also led to another issue that I'm going to talk about later, which is basically me losing $25,000, and I didn't even know about it. But I'm going to get into that later. Number 3. So this is really, really low key, and this is just like super high level advice because no one, and I mean literally no one, talks about it. And I just found out about this by talking to a lot of people, and even they didn't know. We kind of together found out that basically you cannot exit a personal TikTok shop. So if you are someone who obviously wants to exit your brand at some point later, like you're building up an e-commerce brand, maybe you're transitioning from organic dropshipping or paid ads dropshipping to TikTok Shop, and you want to have that as a separate sales channel, and then you sell it as a full package and you exit to get a bunch of money, like this bag of money right here, right? It's very smart. And of course, many e-com owners, e-com store owners, e-com brand owners want to eventually exit. And if you're one of them, and if you want to exit later down the line, whether it be this year or next year or in 10 years, do not open a personal TikTok shop, because you cannot exit. You can't exit a personal TikTok shop, which I wasn't aware of. If you want to exit, you need to open either a corporate shop or a partnership shop, or just something that doesn't personally tie you to the shop as, an individual. You need to open something that is connected to a company, so then you can sell the full company in order to exit. Like, there are methods and ways that are sneaky to sell a personal shop, but it's just not worth it. It's such a pain in the ass, and you're never going to be able to remove your personal information from the personal TikTok shop. So you're essentially never going to be able to unchain yourself from it and fully exit. It's literally impossible. And trust me, I spoke with many sort of acquisition companies that sell e-commerce brands, and a lot of people that have tried to do this. It's just not possible. And even if it is possible, it's not even compliant, and your personal information and tax information is going to still be on the TikTok shop. So don't make a personal shop, make a corporate shop. And that's especially especially relevant if you're someone who's not a US person like me, by the way, because you literally can't open a personal shop. But yeah, the next lesson, which is just so retarded, but very, very common and very overlooked, is lifestyle inflation and the importance of not falling for it. So I didn't just add these pictures of my lifestyle that I lived in 2025 here just to brag or, to show off or to LARP. I just did it to kind of teach you a lesson about lifestyle inflation, because it got to a point in 2025 where I was paying $4,000 a month That's crazy. For rent, I just recently turned 18 at the time. I was paying 4K a month in rent, a bunch of other expenses. I was traveling all around, spending on average probably 5 or 10K a month on personal expenses like traveling, hotels, Airbnbs, renting fucking supercars in Dubai, all of this retarded stuff, right? Spoiling my girlfriend, like stuff that wasn't necessarily important in the moment. And I should have instead reinvested that money into the store so I keep the inventory coming. And this is going to sound like just so stupid. Like you guys are probably going like, I'm never going to make that mistake. There's no way. But you're going to be shocked if you found out how many people actually make this mistake. Like it's insane. So many people I spoke to, after realizing that I made this mistake this year, told me that they face the same exact issue where you start to make money, especially if you don't track profit. Like these two are such a horrible combination that, has occurred with me in my case. Like if you don't track profit and you have lifestyle inflation, you're just fucked. Like you're screwed. That's what happened to me. And so basically I was spending money on rentals, 4K a month when I could have just lived with my parents and, swallowed my pride and cut back on expenses instead of living right across from Burj Khalifa for a fucking month. Instead of living in a luxurious 5.5K a month villa in Koh Samui, I could have stayed with my parents. Like I could have not traveled to Manhattan. I could have not done all of these things that was just not necessary, and of course it's a cool life experience and I got to meet a lot of cool people, but it's just not the right time. Have I just reinvested that money and worked more instead of trying to fucking network, I would have gotten so much further in life. I would have scaled my shop way more and it just would have been all around a lot better for me now. I would have been in a way better position. So, lesson number 5, keep track of your VAs. And what I mean by that is you're going to have to do a lot of hand holding, and there's nothing wrong with that. Oh, that looks kind of retarded. That looks retarded too. You're going to need to do a lot of hand holding. Okay, this one's fine. So what I mean by that is when you eventually hire VAs, like I said, you can hire them on Online Jobs PH or Upwork or Fiverr, whatever, wherever you find VAs, you're going to need them eventually for customer service, for, just like growth and, just a lot of operations and day-to-day stuff that you can just outsource, a lot of monotonous work. And I hired a couple of VAs and they just were not doing their job. And I was paying them monthly for like a half a year, both. And it didn't even make any sense. Like, it was so stupid. I could have either done it myself or maybe cut their jobs and to 20% of what I was paying them, because it was literally retarded. They were not doing anything and I was just losing money every month. And because I was so occupied traveling and doing all this lifestyle stuff, I never even realized what was going on. Right. So when you hire VAs, don't be afraid of holding their hands. And what I mean by that is just like kind of having calls with them, checking in with them all the time, spending a lot of time teaching them everything, because they're not going to understand what you mean. They're not going to understand from the first time how to operate everything. They're not going to understand, do a lot of hand holding, and it's very important. And it also applies to other businesses, not only TikTok Shop, but it just, for me specifically, was relevant to TikTok Shop because of how easy it is to get violations and restrictions. And if you don't properly take care of everything, it's going to go to shit very quickly. And that is also part of the reason why it happened to me, because in September 2025, I realized that I had a free shipping promotion on throughout the whole summer, and I forgot to add a screenshot, but I ended up paying for probably 3,000 people's shipping. It's insane, and I didn't even know about it. So what happened was I thought I had paid shipping on, so every customer that checks out pays for their shipping by themselves, but it turned out that I had free shipping on, a free shipping promotion. So I was actually the one paying for their shipping in the back end. And because I never took a closer look at the statements, and I never looked into the, again, profit, lesson number 2, I never even realized that. And so when I realized it was already pretty much too late, because most of the sales came during the summer right here. And I realized somewhere here, and while I was getting all of these sales, there was a free shipping promotion. So my profit margin was 10% lower at least than I thought it was, which ended up losing me $25,000 that would have been profit, which is ridiculous. Actually, more than 10% profit discrepancy probably. But anyway, so that kind of brought my profit for the US TikTok shop to near zero for this whole period. Thankfully, the UK TikTok shop was fine, and it was a lot more profitable. But yeah, definitely make sure to treat your VAs good. And of course, I treated them good, but handhold them and explain everything in a very detailed way so they understand everything and they actually are invested and they're looking for discrepancies and issues like this. And finally, I want to answer the question, because this all looks like just such a pain in the ass, and especially, you know, the TikTok shop with violations and my whole experience of like going from this to this on TikTok shop, even though mostly it was, you know, my fault. So I want to answer the question of whether TikTok shop is dead and worth starting or not. And, you know, my answer to that is, if I could make 320 grand in year one off this TikTok shop brand while making all of these mistakes, while not doing any bookkeeping, not reposting content, you know, not knowing about these nuances like the personal shop, having crazy lifestyle inflation, not even keeping track of my VAs, if I could make 100 grand a month from TikTok shop and 320K in a year and multiple $8,000 days organically, do you think it's dead? It's quite the opposite. And this year, I'm going to double down, obviously, and scale a lot further with all of this knowledge. And I highly encourage you to, you know, obviously note all of these lessons down so you don't forget. And really, please don't make them, because it's such easily avoidable mistakes. So TikTok shop is obviously not dead, and it's very much alive. And if I didn't make these mistakes that were mostly my fault, of course, then I would have probably kept scaling now, and I would have maybe even been able to exit the brand if I posted on Shopify, you know, and then that would have brought in a lot of revenue. And maybe that would be a great exit this year. But because, you know, I didn't do any of these things, it's not really possible right now, and I'm just rebuilding it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to host a free Discord event, Ask Me Anything, this Sunday. So join my Discord community for free in the description. There's no course, upsell, or anything. And follow this channel. I post videos daily like this. So thank you for watching. I'm going to catch you guys tomorrow.